It's a bit of a joke at this point, Skull and Bones. There's already been many creators who have already shared their opinions and analysis on this game's development journey, but every single time it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. So hence why this video exists, and I want to jump onto it. Because Skull and Bones, back in 2017 when it was first announced, very much so like every other player who saw this trailer, I was excited. I was really excited. It looked like this gritty, real-life pirate simulation game, and we needed it. The idea is that Skull and Bones was a bit of a spin-off or a standalone title from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which was released just 4 years earlier at the point of that trailer release, so back in 2013. And there were mixed opinions on Black Flag. I was a massive Assassin's Creed fan, but I really enjoyed these built-up, highly dense cities. That's what I really enjoyed, being able to parkour from building to building, and that went missing within Black Flag. But I absolutely love the pirate side of Black Flag. That's why I fell in love with that Assassin's Creed game, which is completely different from Assassin's Creed, but that's another rant for another day. And I ended up coming away thinking that if this game wasn't Assassin's Creed and it was just full pirates, and you can go much more in depth with that, man, that would be sick. And 4 years later in 2017, when they did reveal that trailer, I was excited. I was pumped, just like so many others. Now, I should also say that this was a time way before the massive Cyberpunk 2077 fiasco, where players got absolutely ripped apart. But at this point in 2017, players were still skeptical. Players knew Ubisoft, where they would put all their effort into creating amazing trailers, but gameplay itself didn't really come through. We saw this all the way through the Watch Dogs series. So even though, whereas what we have right now in 2023, where players are skeptical of games who just show trailers which are cinematics and shows no gameplay whatsoever, people will say, let's wait till gameplay. Everyone knows that. Back in 2017, it wasn't so much. It was really starting to come through. But even during this, the exact same E3 2017, Ubisoft did release gameplay. And even though it wasn't exactly what people were expecting, we were able to go and see mechanics. We were able to see what they already have. And this was also pre-alpha. With the gameplay, there was already some questions being raised. The trailer was dark and gritty, promising everything that players wanted. Everyone envisioned it as a Black Flag upgrade, because that's pretty much what Ubisoft said it would be. But with the gameplay that they shared even during 2017, it wasn't as dark and it wasn't as gritty. It looked good visually, however, there were already starting to be some arcadey mechanics. The game mode that they showed was called The Hunt, which pretty much put you alongside other players in this contained area. It was still the open sea. You were still a pirate ship and sailing the seas, but it was still within this contained area. With this, you were firing and shooting, using your cannons against other ships, trying to take them down. But while I was going through, we noticed that there wasn't really any pirate mechanics. It was just ship mechanics, and there wasn't the ability to go through any onboarding. You couldn't board another person's ship once you were to take them down, which is something that was massive with Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But at the same time, with all of this, it didn't matter. Skull and Bones already had a pretty good reputation, so to speak. People were excited for it, based on the trailer that they saw and the fact that Ubisoft did already back it up with gameplay, and then said that it will be releasing in 2018, just 1 year later. And 2018 was going to be an exciting year for pirate games, because now we had this realistic and what players were hoping being a dark and gritty approach to being a pirate simulation. Plus also on the other side, if you did want something a bit more arcadey, a bit more laid back, chill, having some fun with some friends, you also had Sea of Thieves. It was going to be the perfect year, except with Skull and Bones, it was inevitably delayed, the first of many to come. In May 2018, about just 1 year after its reveal, Ubisoft delayed Skull and Bones and would eventually say that it would be releasing 2019 to 2020 fiscal year. 1 year later after this, in May 2019, Ubisoft then said that the game will no longer ship in that 2019-2020 fiscal year, pushing the release date to sometime after March 2020. It was after this point, and I'm only talking about 4 months, until Ubisoft made another announcement saying that they're going to delay Skull and Bones again. This time saying that it wouldn't release until sometime after April 2021. So near enough 2 years. It was at this point in which Ubisoft went completely radio silent. They didn't tell us about Skull and Bones, its development. We didn't really hear much at all because global pandemic was happening. Plus also at the exact same time, Ubisoft, as well as a number of other different game companies, were under pressure because of their toxic working environments. Ubisoft are actually still going through it to this day. Apparently it's a horrific place to be working. On May 11th, 2021, Ubisoft did finally say something about Skull and Bones, and yet again, they went through and delayed it. This time saying that it will be releasing sometime between April 2022 and May 2023. In July 2022, Ubisoft finally nailed down a specific release date, this time stating that it will be releasing November 8th, 2022. And we got so close to that, thinking that it is finally going to happen. But of course, that got delayed again. This time on September 28th, 2022, Ubisoft confirmed that it will be delayed, and this time the new release date is March 9th, 2023. But of course, I don't need to tell you the fact that we're coming towards the end of 2023, that too also got delayed. They didn't say an exact release date, they just said that it's going to be fiscal year 2023 to 2024. And now we do have a release date which is set for February 13th, which is for those with Ubisoft Plus. And then on top of that, for those who haven't got Ubisoft Plus, it's now February 16th for everyone else. And yeah, it is kind of crazy because we say all of this and there's no guarantee that it will be releasing this date. It could very well be delayed again. But one thing that I did not mention whilst we were going through all of those delays is that the game completely changed, and this was a problem that Ubisoft said that they were facing. They didn't know what direction to go in, and as management started to change, so did the idea for the game. So we went through this constant evolution. What was supposed to be taking gameplay mechanics from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, put it in it as its own separate title, putting full emphasis on being a pirate within the 1700s, and then suddenly changing to the point of where it was no longer that it just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger in scope. Except when Ubisoft says this, we can see the gameplay in the trailers that they released, and it didn't. What they were saying was one thing, but what they were showing was something completely different. Whereas they were saying it was getting bigger and bigger in scope, so that they decided to delay it and make it better and better each time. What we ended up seeing was what we initially wanted from that initial 2017 E3 trailer, to suddenly it being broken down into this arcade game, something that you would see on a mobile device. And with each trailer that they released to announce the new release date for it then being delayed and saying that they need more time as they've gathered more feedback and they want to make the game that players want, only for them to double down in the direction that they're already going in, that players already hate, and just trying to say, no, actually, you definitely want to play this. This is exactly what you want. When in actual fact, no. Everyone just wanted a dark, gritty pirate game, being as realistic as possible. And then suddenly there were flamethrowers, there were firing fireworks onto other people's ships, there were these weird customization options. It just looked like they wanted to go down the live service game like so many other game companies to try and monetize it as much as possible in terms of these weird crossover cosmetics and different styles for your ship and also your character. In terms of gameplay for what Ubisoft has now revealed for Skull and Bones, there is no story, although you can find clues about the lore. You can only leave your ship at certain islands or locations around the world. You can't board enemy ships. There's no sword fighting. The places you can walk around are local hubs for the community, where you will only be able to claim contracts and then do emotes. Why? I don't know. There's weird weaponry and customization options, such as those flamethrowers, missiles. There seems to be a fully automatic cannon, which is present within the 1700s. The mechanic for you to harvest resources is also kind of weird because, yet again, you can't leave your ship unless it's a designated location. So what you end up doing is pulling up alongside an island and doing a a sell by harvesting where you need to time it. You just time it as soon as the line hits that green section, you press whatever button and you claim resources. The whole thing does seem like it was developed for a mobile device, but this is apparently coming to consoles and PC. The whole thing seems very weird mechanically, and that's because there were a different approach. There were different thoughts going into this, and they wanted to go in different directions. Some wanted to have Skull and Bones where you can play as a pirate. Others wanted it where you play as a pirate ship. And quite clearly, they never settled that. So now you do have these weird mechanics where you can play as a pirate, but there's nothing to do. But there's also mechanics for you to play as the pirate ship, but also that not being fleshed out because, again, you're given the option to play as a pirate. Now, of course, if they went in one of these directions, it would have been better, but we can all agree, and this is what fans have been saying for the longest time, is that we want to play as a pirate. That's it. Just being able to sail the seas as a pirate, build your own fleet, have your very own ship, which you can customize and upgrade, but it being realistic, potentially having a story going alongside this, but ultimately for you to interact with the world as a pirate, leaving your ship when you want to leave it, jumping in the sea if you really wish to, boarding other ships, having sword fights. That is really what people wanted. Now, of course, as we're approaching a release date, which I'm still skeptical about within February, if that does go ahead, that does not give enough time for these changes to be made. But Ubisoft have been given a chance. Players have been saying this for years, those changes have not been implemented, and now we have this as a game, which I'm sure there are still people who will buy into this. But when you do go and look at a YouTube trailer and see that every single one of them since 2017 has been heavily disliked, there are still some people liking it, either people doing it as a meme or maybe they are genuinely interested, but compared to the market size of what there was before and people who were excited to what they have now, it's just nowhere near. And that begs the question, is Ubisoft going to make money from this? Probably not. At least Ubisoft are not likely to make a profit from the players playing because, well, this is where it does get a bit interesting. Back in July of 2021, there was an article that was released. In fact, there were quite a few articles released saying that apparently Skull and Bones has cost over $120 million to make. Up until that point, it's going to be considerably more. It's probably 150 million plus. Now that we are getting close to going into 2024. And there were points in which up to over 400 employees were working on Skull and Bones. So this is not by any means a small project, but in most cases, due to not having a clear direction of where you're going, the game continuously being delayed, fans not actually being excited for the game, heavily disliking every single trailer and gameplay reveal, that anyone that's smart within business would probably have killed this. They would have cut their losses and put attention elsewhere. Ubisoft has done that. They delayed and cancelled so many games during the exact same period. That's why right now they're going all in on Assassin's Creed. They've killed most of their other IPs. And there's about 8 different Assassin's Creed games that we know about that are currently in development, which are scheduled to release between now all the way up to 2030, with there also being leaks and rumors of there being even more. They're going all in on Assassin's Creed. But the reason that this article suggests that they haven't stopped or they haven't killed it is because the Singapore government is backing it. Mainly because this offers more opportunity for jobs with Ubisoft being over there, going through Skull and Bones, and there also being the opportunity for there to be more games coming from the exact same Ubisoft studio, which will then offer even more jobs. So it says here, Kotaku reports that the game has apparently cost Ubisoft upwards of 120 million. But a deal with the government of Singapore, where the main development studio making the game is based, is providing generous subsidies. The condition of these subsidies include hiring people at Ubisoft Singapore studio and a studio releasing original IPs over the next few years. So there's a good chance that this game is actually releasing not to profit from gamers or generally be a good game, but just because of a deal with the government. If that is true, at the end of the day, I'm just a guy in a room. There's no way for me to possibly know, but I read through that and thought it was interesting. There, of course, will be people who buy into this game and play it Very similar to that, there was of course people who bought into the day before and played that. I think it was 30,000 people over on Steam day one. Despite that, and everyone knowing that it was a scam game. What they originally advertised is no longer what the game is, not even close. Not even just that they really overhyped the trailer and they tried to achieve that, but didn't. No, they didn't even get close. It was an open world survival MMO, but what they released was an extraction shooter lure. Two completely different genres. Ubisoft in this case are still providing a pirate game, and as I said, there probably will be people that buy in. I don't think they're going to be able to make profit from those who do buy in, but by the sounds of it, it really doesn't matter. There's probably some calculation of return on investment based on the subsidies given by the Singapore government based on how many games that they can release over the next several years for them to take a hit with Skull and Bones, but as long as they're able to get everything else in order, they'll be able to profit. Which is honestly a shame that this is the way Ubisoft are going, especially considering as a child, especially during times when Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag released, I thought Ubisoft was one of the best ever game companies. And well, they're just not. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of Skull and Bones? And if you enjoyed this video, then I highly recommend clicking this video right here. What that video is, I don't actually know. The YouTube algorithm has picked it specifically just for you. So I hope you enjoy.